What is going on, college basketball fans, and welcome back to another video. It is about that time for some college basketball content, and yesterday the AP poll released their preseason top 25 rankings, so I thought we'd give it a look. I know the preseason polls don't really mean anything, and in college basketball the AP poll really doesn't mean anything because all that matters is getting into March and making it happen in the tournament, but it's still fun to take a look, and I'm going to give you guys my thoughts on their rankings. So let's go. Guys, so here we are. Here are the AP polls preseason top 25 rankings for college basketball this year. And at number 1, we have North Carolina, and I'm so happy that they put North Carolina at number 1. They are my preseason number 1 team in the country, and I'm just happy they didn't have Gonzaga number 1. I still think Gonzaga at number 2 is too high. I would have them lower, but I'm just happy they did not put Gonzaga at number 1 in the preseason. I think North Carolina should be the number 1 team. And it's funny because I do think that North Carolina could fall down around 10 to 15 at some point in the season. But I do think heading into March, looking at it from a preseason point, that North Carolina is probably the favorite to win the national championship, even if throughout the season they fall to number 10 or to number 12, somewhere in that range. But I like North Carolina as the preseason number 1. At number 2, Gonzaga, like I already mentioned, I think that they should be a tad bit lower. I would have them around 5, 6, 7 in my top 10, but not at number 2. I just think Gonzaga, even though they have a really good team, they're bringing back the mustache man, Drew Timme. They're bringing back some good guards. They brought in Malachi Smith from Chattanooga. I think Gonzaga is going to be a solid team, especially throughout the regular season like they usually are. And they play in a West Coast conference where they're going to be able to dominate their opponents. And St. Mary's and San Francisco aren't even going to be as good as last year. So Gonzaga really doesn't have any competition this year. So it's going to be easy riding for them. They do have a tough non-conference schedule because they have to, and we're going to see, real early in the season what they're about, but I just don't trust them come March, which is the main reason why I would have Gonzaga a little bit lower. Houston at number 3. I'm fine with Houston at number 3. I would probably have them at 2 or 3 with Kentucky as my other 2 or 3. I'm going to have my personal top 35 rankings here coming in probably sometime next week or the week after before the season starts. So be on the lookout for that. I'm going to be updating my Dannyology Power 35 rankings pretty frequently throughout the season on the channel. So I would have 2 and 3 as Houston and Kentucky for me and drop Gonzaga down. I don't know if I would put Houston or Kentucky at 2, but either way, I like Houston and Kentucky in my top 5. I'm happy with that because I think Kentucky has a very good, solid, well-rounded team around Oscar Tshiebwe as well, and I just think their team is going to be so good. In Houston, they have Marcus Sasser, which I believe is probably going to be the best point guard in college basketball this season. He's going to be a problem, man, and I'm just super excited for the season. Houston, Kentucky in the top 5, I like it. Baylor and Kansas tied for 5th place. That's kind of weird. I don't remember ever seeing a tie in a preseason or just an AP poll, but it's interesting. Both in the Big 12. We all know the Big 12 is a very, very strong, probably the best college basketball conference, and I would definitely have Baylor over Kansas preseason. I'd have Baylor personally as my preseason number 1 Big 12 team. I'm fine with Baylor around 5, but I'd probably have Kansas around like 8 or 9. But yeah, these two teams are tied. Kind of weird, but yeah. And then we got Duke at number 7. And Duke, I feel like is a little bit too high as well. I mean, I would probably have Duke around like 10, 11, 12. I see a team like Creighton down there at 9. And I know I'm skipping over UCLA. We'll cut back to them. But Creighton at 9 is super disrespectful, and looking at this list right now, they really disrespected the Big East Conference, and I just have to point that out right now because I was looking at CBS's top 25. One of my subs sent it to me, and they also disrespected the Big East as well. And my rankings, I'm definitely not going to do that. I cannot believe Creighton's all the way down at 9. You know how I was talking about I would have Houston and Kentucky as my 3-4 or as my 2-3? Well, my 4 would probably be Creighton. I'm that high on them. I think that they should be a lot higher. I think that they have a roster that's just really well put together. They have an anchor down low in Cockburner. They got great shooters all the way throughout the lineup and the bench, great passers who are going to be able to move the ball. I just think Creighton is going to be a problem this season, and I would have them in my top 5. I think 9 is way too low for the Blue Jays to start off this season. But anyway, talking about UCLA, I like that placement of 8. I'm rocking the UCLA jersey today, and yeah, I think UCLA should be a top 10 team. I think Duke should be around 10, right around where Arkansas is. I'm like 1A, 1B there with Duke and Arkansas as far as who I would put on top. I'd probably put Duke at 10, drop Arkansas down to 11, because both those teams are very similar as to where they both have really good freshmen coming in, but again, they're freshmen, so they're unproven. We'll have to see that, but I would still have them fairly high, like 10 and 11. Now, let's get through to the 11 through 25 here, and I'm just going to go over some of my thoughts on what I see in these rankings. So we got Tennessee, Texas, Indiana, TCU, and Auburn at our 11 through 15, and then Villanova at 16, which again, very disrespectful to the Big East Conference. This is a Villanova team that just made the Final Four. They lost Colin Gillespie, yes, but they're going to be bringing back Justin Moore whenever he gets back off of his injury. They got Cam Whitmore coming in as a freshman, who I think is going to be one of the best freshmen in college basketball. That dude is a beast, let's be honest. I mean, he is going to tear it up right away for this Villanova team. And I think that they got a little bit disrespected. They should easily be in the top 15. I'd probably have them up around 12, 13. I think Indiana at 13 is a little bit too high. And me personally, and I feel a lot of people think this as well, I'm just not too high on Big Ten teams this year. And I think I really like Illinois. I see them down there at 23. And I like that spot for Illinois. I think that Illinois is my preseason favorite to win the Big Ten Conference this year. The Indiana hype, I see why it's there. Trace Jackson, really good player, and I think Indiana is going to be a fairly high seed in the tournament this year, probably like a 4, 5, 6 seed, and could win a game or 2. But I don't see them getting any further than that, and I don't see why they should be number 13 preseason. If they go out there and win games at the start of the year, some big time games, then I could see pushing them up, but I would have them in the 15 to 20 range, or down there around where Illinois is. Honestly, I don't think Indiana should be 13. TCU at 14, I like that. But to me, there's no reason Villanova should be behind Auburn and Indiana. I think that alone is very disrespectful, and I like Auburn a lot with Johnny Broome coming in, transferred from Morehead State. That dude is a beast. I really like Johnny Broome at Auburn now. Bruce Pearl, really good coach. They're going to be in the mix of a top 5 seed in the tournament. So I don't hate that ranking. I just think that Villanova should be put above them. But I really do like TCU. TCU's placement there, Mike Miles, Eddie Lampkin, going to be one of the best duos in college basketball this year. So now let's get into 16 through 20. So Villanova, we talked about them. I think they're too low. Arizona lost a lot this offseason, but I still think they're going to be very solid. I really like what Tommy Lloyd has done in a short period of time there at Arizona. His first year at head coach last year, coming over as an assistant for Mark Few at Gonzaga. I like what he's doing at Arizona. I think that they have guys who are going to develop and step into that star role that they're going to be missing with Benedict Mathurin moving on to the NBA. So I really like Arizona's placement here, and I really like Virginia's placement as well. I know they didn't make the tournament last year, but they still had one of the best defenses in the country last season. I think hindsight looking in, Virginia probably should have made the tournament last year, but I feel like a lot of people throughout the season. And even me, myself, was disrespecting the ACC conference last year during the regular season. And that kind of made for not a good look on the ACC and not many ACC teams making it into the tournament. But Virginia, 21-14 record last year. I think they probably could have made it in as a bubble team if the ACC was looked at a little bit better. And I think this year a lot more people are going to be respecting the ACC based on what they did in the tournament last year. Then at 19, we got San Diego State, and I'm not mad at this ranking either. San Diego State is... I really like this team, and I really like Matt Bradley there. He's one of my favorite players to watch because he's just like this bulldog type guard, but he plays kind of the 3. He can play the 1 through 3 if you need him to. And he's a great defender, great passer. And San Diego State's roster as a whole is just really good. So I'm not mad at them. I would probably have them a little lower in the 20 to 25 range, probably around where Dayton is. But I'm happy that they're ranked because I really like this San Diego State team. At number 20, we have Alabama. And Alabama is where I'm kind of like, I don't think that they should be ranked in the top 25. I think that they should be a little bit lower, kind of out of it. And I'm going to mention some teams that I think deserve at least an honorable mention or should be in the top 25 preseason. But Alabama, I would not put in my preseason top 25. But I do think they're going to be a solid team. They usually do get that 5-6 seed in the tournament. So I could see them getting that again. But I just don't see them as the 20th best team in the country, not me personally. At 21, we have Oregon, a team like Virginia who did not make the tournament last year, but is getting a lot of preseason hype, and I can get behind that hype. I really like Khalil Ware, their freshman 7'3" center coming in. He reminds me a lot of Evan Mobley whenever he was at USC coming in as a freshman. I think he can have a similar impact in the Pac-12 conference to him, but 21 is too high. I think I like Virginia's ranking because they were one of the best defenses last year, and they're bringing back a lot of players. Oregon, they're bringing back some guys, and they're bringing in a guy like Khalil Ware, but not enough for me to rank them in my top 25, so I would not have Alabama or Oregon in my top 25. Michigan at 22 and Illinois at 23. 2 Big Ten teams coming in back-to-back, and I'm fine with this. I'm just not too high on the Big Ten, but around the 20 to 25 range, I'm fine with this. Illinois is my preseason favorite to win the Big Ten Conference, so them being the 3rd highest ranked Big Ten team is interesting to me. 24, we got Dayton. I like that they're ranked, and I like that they're in the 20 to 25 range. Very solid, very high on this Dayton team. There's another Malachi Smith who is a beast there, and I think Dayton, they're going to be back this year, and it sucks that we didn't get to see that Dayton team with Obi Toppin because the tournament got canceled that year, but I think Dayton is going to be back to having a chance to make a run in this year's tournament. They would have been a really fun team to watch in that tournament had it been played. Number 25 to round out the AP poll is Texas Tech, and yeah, Texas Tech going to be a solid team this year, and I'm not mad at them being at that 25 spot. Some teams to mention that I don't see on this list, and this goes back to the Big East being very disrespected, is UConn and Xavier. I think both those teams, if not in the top 25, deserve to be very, very close. And I don't see any others receiving votes on here, but my guess would hopefully those 2 teams would be on that. I would probably have Xavier ranked or UConn. I mean, maybe both. Like I said, Alabama, Oregon, I would not have ranked preseason. They're going to have to show me first. But yeah, I think Xavier, UConn probably should be ranked or at least close, and then Creighton and Villanova very disrespected. The Big East disrespect is crazy. Other teams not ranked, I mean, off the top of my head, I'm thinking Texas A&M. I wouldn't have them in my top 25. I think they deserve an honorable mention. I think Buzz Williams, their head coach, is going to do a great job, and they're on the come up. this year, but I think a couple weeks into the season, if they start winning, they might get some recognition. So I like them as an honorable mention. Wyoming, another Mountain West team that's going to be competing with San Diego State this season. So I think that they deserve an honorable mention. I wouldn't put them in my top 25, but they get a mention. And the last three teams that I thought of that probably deserve a mention are Florida State. I think they're coming back. Had a lot of injuries last year, a lot of problems, but I think that they are going to be back, especially as a tournament team. I don't know about cracking the top 25. Definitely not preseason, but they deserve a mention. I also got Miami, who picked up Nigel Pack, Norchad Omier in the offseason. I think Miami is going to be a pretty good team in the ACC. And then also Iowa State. I think Iowa State got a few pickups, and yes, they lost Tyrese Hunter, which is a massive loss. If Iowa State had Tyrese Hunter, they should definitely be in the preseason top 25, but since they lost him, they're probably just on the outside. I think Iowa State deserves an honorable mention here as well. So yeah, guys, let me know what you guys think about this preseason AP poll for college basketball. We're getting super close to the season, and overall, it was not that bad. My main points are very disrespectful to the Big East Conference. I think Gonzaga is ranked too high. And those really just my main things. I think Indiana is ranked too high. And other than that, not a bad list. I wouldn't have Alabama or Oregon in my top 25, but it's not terrible. So let me know your guys' thoughts on the AP poll rankings, and a lot more college basketball content coming soon. We're going to keep up with the college football content as well. Best time of the year is when both of these sports are happening at the same time, and I'm ready for it, guys. So let me know your guys' thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. I'm out.